Hello. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is factoring polynomials completely. First thing we want to do is we have to check and see, is there a GCF? If there is a GCF, then we're going to have to factor it out. Second step, we want to look and see how many terms are in our polynomial. If I have two terms, we want to see if that's going to be a dots question. Now, we need to know what the meaning is for dots. We have difference of two squares. Next step, if dots doesn't work, then we need to next check out and see the number of terms again that we have in our expression. If I have 3 or 4 terms, I'm going to want to look at factoring by grouping. Now, in this lesson, all of the questions are mixed. So we might have dots, we might have just GCF, we might have dots with GCF, okay? We might have GCF then factoring by grouping. They're all jumbled in here. So we have to be smarter than this. We have to look at each individual expression and see, is it a GCF? If there is, pull it out. And then we have to go back and answer these follow-up questions. So let's look at number 1. So for number 1, we have 2x squared minus 100x. All right, well, I have to first ask myself, is there a GCF? So, is there? Yes, there is. We are going to divide out both terms by 2x. When I divide out both terms by 2x, I'm left with x minus 50. Now, are we done? Let's see. Can I factor this x minus 50 any further? Can I do anything with that? Nope. Just going to leave it as is. This is our final answer, and we are done. All right, not so bad. Let's move on to the next one. I've got 16x to the 8th minus 81. All right, so I have to see. Let's see. 16x to the 8th minus 81. Well, I've got to see. Is it dots? Is there a GCF? Could this potentially be factored by grouping? I don't know. We have to first look and see, is there a GCF? Well, let's see, 16 and 81. Nope, they don't have anything in common. But I know I have two perfect squares. So I have two perfect squares. I have subtraction in the middle. The exponent is even. And I have two terms. There are two terms total. Okay, well, we know that this is dots. So let's go through this. I've got, let's see. All right, so I have 16x to the 8th minus 81. Well, this is dots, so I'm going to break this up into my two sets of parentheses. We know that the square root of 16 is 4, so I'm going to write a 4 on both sides. I know the square root of I know the square root of x to the 8th is x to the 4th and x to the 4th. And I know that the square root of 81 is plus or minus 9. Now, if you decided to write the minus 9 first and then the plus 9 second, totally fine. Okay. Are we done? Let's see. Let's check out what we've got. I have 4x to the 4th. So I have 4x to the 4th plus 9. Is it dots? No. There is a plus sign in the middle. That means this is not dots. Can't do anything with it. All right, so that's out. We're going to leave that alone. Let's check out the second one. I've got 4x to the 4th minus 9. Is that dots? Yeah, I can break this up. I can break this up into what? What do you think? Think about what dots means. I'm going to bring this down. This just follows down. Okay? I can take the square root of 4. I get 2 and 2. I know the square root of x to the fourth is x squared. And I know the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. This was a dots on dots. 2 dots questions, right in one question. Awesome. Okay, moving on. All right, let's take a look at number 3. For number 3, again, we need to ask ourselves the question, is there a GCF? Yes, there is. The GCF is x, so let's divide out by x and divide out by x. I'm left with x into x to the fourth minus 100. Okay, now I need to check. Can I simplify what's inside the parentheses further? Can that be simplified further and factored completely? Yes. X to the fourth minus 100 is a dots question. Again, the exponent is even. 100 is a perfect square. X to the fourth is a perfect square, and I have subtraction right in the middle. Awesome. All right, we're good to go. I'm going to break this up. I've got x times our double set of parentheses, x squared minus 10, because the square root of 100 is plus or minus 10. And we're done. That's it. Be careful here. The square root of 100 is plus or minus 10, not 50. Okay, you are not cutting this 100 in half. It is the square root. You want to take the square root of that number. Okay? All right, let's make things a little bit more difficult. Let's take a look at number 8. So at number 8, again, we have to check and see, is there a GCF? And in fact, there is one. I can divide everything out by 3. Okay? When I divide everything out by 3, I'm left with inside of the parentheses as follows. Now, here comes a little bit more of a challenge, but not really. We can definitely handle this. We've got this. All right, so we factored out a GCF. We found that there was a GCF in common with everything. We have to look. Could what be inside the parentheses be a dots question? So is this going to be dots? No, it can't possibly be dots. For dots, you need 2 terms. Here I have 3. Oh, well, remember what we talked about earlier. If I have 3 terms, we're going to be looking at grouping. So we're going to group here. So we need to remember some key words here. We are going to multiply the first and the third term together. That's going to get us our master product. We need to then think, what are 2 numbers that are going to multiply to 12a squared, but adds to negative 13a? So let's start thinking of some factors. We've got 12a and 1a. We've got negative 12a, negative 1a. We've got 3a, 4a, negative 3a, negative 4a. All right, and we can keep going, right? We've got 6 and 2, negative 6 and negative 2. I don't need to keep going with this. All right, so we have to look and see which of these numbers, when I multiply them together, is going to get me to 12a squared, but when I add them, get me to negative 13a. So let's check this out. 12a times 1a is going to get me to 12a squared, but it's not going to add to negative 13a, so this is out. Let's check the next one. Negative 12a times negative 1a is going to get me to 12a squared. And when I add these, oh, I do get negative 13a. We've got our 2 factors. Now, here's the important piece. The whole point in this was to split this middle term. This negative 13a is meant to be split into 2 terms. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite the negative 13a using my negative 12a and negative 1a. All right, so let's see. I've got 3 times, just bring down the 3, a squared minus 12a minus a plus 12. I'm just going to erase over here just for sake of room. So we have minus 12a minus a plus 12. Okay, now we split the middle. We have 4 terms. We wanted 4 terms because now we can find the GCF of the first two terms, find the GCF of the second two terms, and then group them together. Again, we're always just going to be bringing down that 3. So let's see what happens. A squared minus 12a. A squared minus 12a. Okay, they both share an a. So let's factor out an a. What's left inside is just a minus 12. Let's check out over here. I have negative a and positive 12. Well, I need the inside of my parentheses to be consistent with what I have over here. Or let me change the color, make it a little easier to see. With what I've got over here. I need the inside parentheses for the second set to be a minus 12. And the only possible way for that to happen is if I divide out by a negative 1. So if I divide out by a negative 1 for these last two terms, if I were to redistribute, I'll end up back with negative a plus 12. We're almost there. We are almost there. All right, well, now let's see what we have. These two things match. Those two things match. And this is what's left over. We are going to group. Again, bring down the 3. Leave it alone. In my double set of parentheses, okay, so in my double set of parentheses, I have a minus 1 and a minus 12, and that's it. We did it. We found the GCF, and then we factored by grouping. Let's take a look at just one more, and hopefully this was enough review and help as you prepare for your exam. All right, so now I am on page 19 of your unit packet. So let's take a look at 14, and then very quickly I will take a look at 15 with you. All right, so for number 14, again, we have to check. Is there a GCF? Let's see. Yep, they all share a 3. Let's factor out the 3. Okay, I'm left with x to the 4th plus 13x squared plus 30. Great. Now I have to check. Well, we just pulled out the GCF, so the only options left are either dots or grouping. And this can't be dots because I have 3 terms here. If it were to be dots, we need 2 terms. So that means we have to factor by grouping. So let's do it. We have to multiply the first and the last term because that is our master product. Okay, so I have 30x to the 4th. I have to look and see what are the 2 factors that when I multiply them together get me to 30x to the 4th but adds to 13x squared. So let's see, we've got 10x squared, 3x squared, I have 6x squared, 5x squared, we could do 1x squared, 30x squared. All right, so let's stop there. Which of these, and obviously there are many more other factors, but let's look at what we've got. 10x squared and 3x squared. When I multiply those together, I get 30x to the 4th. And when I add them, oh wow, would you look at that? We get 13x squared. The whole point, again, guys, is to split this middle term. This middle term, we want to split it into 2 terms. All right, so let's actually do this. Okay? Let's actually split the middle term. So let's see. I have 3 times x to the 4th plus 10x squared plus 3x squared plus 30. Okay, I have 4 terms now. This is what I wanted. Awesome. Now I can find the GCF from the first 2, find the GCF of the last 2 terms, and then we will group. Bring down that 3. In parentheses, for the first 2 terms, we can divide out by an x squared. They both share an x squared. I'm then going to be left with the following, x squared plus 10. Now I need to look at the second 2 terms. They both share a 3. So I'm going to divide out by 3. Don't forget this plus sign out front here. Okay, you don't want to write it like this. I'll show you the wrong way to do it. You don't want to write it like this. This is not good. Okay, you need that plus sign. And then I'm left with x squared plus 10. Now, guys, again, what was the point in this? What did we end up finding? We have this x squared plus 10 and x squared plus 10. They match up. I have my x squared and x squared and plus 3 left over. All right, we can group them. We're ready to go. So, bring down that 3. Create my 2 sets of parentheses. I'm left with x squared plus 10 and x squared plus 3. And we are done. That's it. Very, very quickly, I want to show you number 15. All right, so very quickly for number 15. Well, let's see. I have 4 terms. Okay, well, when I have 3 or 4 terms, we have to think factor by grouping. There is no master product for me to multiply. This is already split into 4 terms. We are good to go. So we have to check and see. Is there a GCF among the first 2 terms? And then is there a GCF among the last 2 terms? Let's do it. From the first 2 terms, they both share an 8m. Let's factor out the 8m. I'm left with d plus 2. Awesome. Next. I have to check and see. 6d plus 12. Is there a GCF? Sure is. I'm going to factor out the 6. When I pull out the 6, I'm left with d plus 2. Awesome. This was quick and easy, guys, this one. The d plus 2's match. And what we're left with on the side is 8m plus 6. So I'm left with 8m plus 6 times d plus 2. Now, hang on. What did I forget to do as the very first step? You got it. I needed to GCF, but that's okay. Let's do it now. I need to GCF out from here. 8m plus 6, they still have another number in common. Do you know what it is? Yep, they both share a 2. So let's factor out that 2. I've got 2 times 4m plus 3 times d plus 2. And we are done. All right, well, thank you guys for watching my video. I hope this helped. And again, if you have questions in class, please let me know. All right, bye.